Welcome to the Book Carriers, your favorite book club podcast.
I'm Cassandra, the hopeless romantic book carrier.
I'm Angela, the logical book carrier.
And I'm Becca, the sentimental book carrier.
We are three 30-something best friends and busy moms who live vicariously through the stories we read.
So grab your cup of coffee, get comfy, and let's get lost in a great book together.
Hello, book carriers. Welcome to another episode. We are so excited to be here. I think I say that every single time, but we are genuinely excited to be here. So, hi, ladies. How are y'all doing?
Doing good. I don't know. You may not notice, but there's a storm going on right now, at least in my neck of the woods. So it feels a little fitting. At least. Yeah.
Yes, I know there was lightning and thunder earlier today, and I was like, oh, it just reminded me of everything that we're going to discuss today. Onyx Storm.
Onyx Storm, yes. Give us a little ambiance going on outside. We're so excited for today's episode. We are covering Onyx Storm. So if you've been listening to the episodes, if you've been following along, this is pretty much the only series that we've covered thus far. So we were so excited. So what are your opinions on the cover? What are your opinions on what it represents?
Any strong opinions on the cover, or we always go to those three little words that get posted.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I feel like we always kind of start there.
The dark.
Brave the dark, period. I know on like TikTok and stuff, people have shown like the progression of the covers and like how it started as a circle and it's like slowly turning into a square, and so it's transforming.
I mean, the title in and of itself is Onyx Storm. I'm immediately thinking Xaden and the struggle he's going to go through in the book, and then Brave the Dark is pretty self-explanatory, nothing too deep, just the darkness of the whole venom side of things. And so it's just it's just straight to the point. Would I say that it's as gripping as the first two? For me personally, no. It just kind of was like a, hey, here's what to expect. And I think it, delivered in the expectation. We saw a lot of dark.
Yeah. I do like the color scheme, like how it's black
very
and then
sleek.
It fades into the smoky silver. And I like the cover, but no strong feelings about it.
Our edition has the side pages with the dragons there, which is pretty nice. I don't know if that's how all copies are, but that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think different editions have different sides, so I really like ours. Honestly, this is my favorite cover out of all three. I love the black and white. I love the Brave the Dark. I think that is so much more intriguing, and it gripped me definitely a lot more than the burn it down or the fly or die.
I love that.
So we always take a time to read the dedication of the book. That's something that I absolutely love. I think that we've learned something from Rebecca Yarros in every one of her dedications. The dedication for this one is kind of, she gives a shout out to all the readers out there.
Yeah.
The ones that it says, to the ones who don't run with popular crowd, the ones who get caught reading under their desks, the ones who feel like they never get invited, included, or represented, get your leathers. We have dragons to ride. And I love it.
I liked that a lot. It was very inclusive. I was like, okay, here I go. Let me go get my leathers. I'm ready. Let's ride.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. And speaking to like the readers that maybe grew up without having like a community or a space, maybe they were judged for it or bullied for it or whatever it may be. And I think that speaks to that could speak to so many of the readers.
Yeah. And I think to the people too that they feel safe in the fantasy realm, they can escape to it because maybe they're going through different things and experiencing different things in their real life. And that's what fantasy reading is for some people. I'm a big dedication girly. So we got in the car after we got it. And that was the first thing Angela did was flip to the dedication and read it out loud. And I was like, oof, it was 1:00 in the morning. And I was like, let's get home so I can read. So I want to put a disclaimer out there to anybody who loved this book. That is fantastic. I am so happy that you enjoyed it. Reading is completely a personal experience for everybody. Somebody's going to love a book that somebody else is going to hate. And you cannot blame people for having opinions, because there are going to be people that love it. There are going to be people that hate books that I love, and that's fine. That's just not your cup of tea, and it's going to be fine.
And I'll just say, if listeners listen to our last episode of like Meet the Book Carriers, and if you're listening to this and you haven't listened to it, go check it out, because we talk about us and like how we're so different and why we like the things that we like. And yeah, you'll hear about like we're all so different, so I'm sure we'll have different opinions today too.
Yes, I hope that we do. Let's start with the world building. We obviously, this is a world that we've lived in now for 2 books. So how do you feel about her descriptions of the places that we are, the places that we see?
I think there was a lot of world in general to build.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that may or may not have been something that was a struggle for me to get into. Was because there was such a vast world that I loved. That in Fourth Wing it was like, okay, we know there's a big world, but it was focused on Navarre and Tyrrendor. And so it really, really spent time building that up. In this book, it was very vast.
Yes. Welcome to the continent.
Yeah.
And every little bit of it.
Welcome to the continent, and welcome to also this other area that nobody knows what it is.
Yeah, it's not even on the map. I kept flipping to the beginning and I was like, wait, where are we in our... And she was like, no, we're even more south than that. And I was like, well, where the hell are we? Like,
yes.
Yeah.
I kept flipping to the map too. Yeah. I feel like in Fourth Wing and Iron Flame, we got maybe like 50% of the world, maybe not even 50, like 40% of the world. And then Onyx Storm was like, bam, here's the other 50% that you missed.
Overload.
Yeah.
Yes.
But that's what people are saying. Like, well, if you were confused reading this, then you must not have done your rereads, first of all. And second of all, it's not that confusing. I mean, it was the judgment out there for the readers that were confused was so thick and heavy. We started with the Fourth Wing, and I think we mentioned even then, like, the romance element of it is a strong piece. To go from that to now everybody saying like, well, now she's going into high fantasy. And so if you don't like that, that's your own fault. Like that's your problem or whatever. And it's like, well, that's not what I signed up for. When I started the series, this was just like, you either know who it is or you don't. We were all thinking it was going to be the same type, and it just wasn't. It was too many characters with not enough context clues to know who they were. She put a chart at the beginning of the book, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, unhelpful. There's like 3 characters on here, and it's like there, and she mentions about 100.
The way the book starts, you're given a lot of characters that you may not remember from the first 2, and that was hard for me. I'm going to admit that was very difficult for me. Then we start going into building other worlds along with a world that we should already kind of know, and then on top of that we're having to learn other parts of the world. And it was very like, it was nonstop. I felt like I didn't get a chance to really get a grasp of things. Even when we were going to the different aisles, I felt like I didn't get enough time in each of the aisles to really digest it and know, like, had to differentiate between how many did they visit? Like 4? Who I can't remember, honestly. But yeah, it was like, it was so quick. And I would have liked, if we're going to do that, if we're going to be introduced to new places, I would have liked a little bit more time in each.
Yeah. Well, it's reading like a TV series is what it's reading like now.
It's so interesting.
It reads like episodes. I mean, it's like, oh, we're here. Oh, here. Okay. And then we're done.
I could totally see that. But yeah, I had the same exact experience as y'all did. Sometimes I would get frustrated, and I wish I had this on my Kindle, because on the Kindle, you can just so easily search up the words and it'd be so much easier. But I don't know. I had the same experience, but I just tried not to get hung up on it, and I just moved along. If I didn't remember, I didn't remember. Oh, well.
Yeah.
Well, then my question is, like, would you say that affected how, like, you've understood the plot, though? Because that, to me, it affected how I understood the plot. Like, I could move past some of the things that I didn't understand or remember, but then it was like, well, wait, what are they talking about? Okay, let me go back and reread.
Yes. Yeah. I think that, yes, that's very valid. I would say yes. I would agree to that. And I would even say, like, I would want to, well, I don't know. I was going to say I would want to reread this book. And I think I would eventually.
Yeah.
Not anytime soon, just because it's so hard to get through. And I think it does affect the plot, but I just try not to let it get to me.
Yeah.
So let's move on. This is too much. And the other thing that I thought of was I also missed, I think we made a comment too, like in Fourth Wing, about how we liked how Rebecca Yarros world built with Violet's character of like her being a scribe and like repeating to herself like in moments of anxiety, like the world building. But I feel like that was a missed point for Rebecca. Like she should have brought that in a little bit, maybe.
Yeah. Her scribeness was non-existent in this book. It was just pure writer at this point.
Well, in some missions, I feel like her scribe self did come out.
I could still see some of her scribe come out for sure. But at least in terms of the world building, didn't really see it there. Yeah. Where she used that a lot in Fourth Wing.
Yeah. Let's talk about some of the character development. I want to say I was right.
About who?
Who are you talking about?
About Dane. And everybody on TikTok right now that is shipping Dane, but gave me hell for my original video saying that I would rather be with Dane than Xaden, y'all can all kiss my behind. Because I knew that my man would come through. And I stand by that. And everybody being like, oh my God, like, Dane, like, look at me, Ados. Like, oh my gosh. I'm like, yeah, I knew the whole time. So what were y'all thoughts?
Nah, I still got my eye on Dane. I'm like, I'm still looking at you sideways.
Yeah.
I'm like 80% there with Dane. We started at 0, so 80% is pretty good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's good. We're going in the right direction.
I have thoughts about this. I have like major thoughts because I know. So it's not in the way that you think. I kind of disagree. I think, yes, there were he had some moments, but they fell short. Okay. Look, let's go to the battle. Let's go to the battle. Where were they? Umbriel, and they were doing the battle with the Xaden and Dane and not Cat, but our main chica, Violet, yeah. Yes. And Dane, so like Xaden starts and he takes off his shirt and he goes in, he's like, here, hold my shirt. And then Dane, I had a flicker of like, okay, here we go. He's like, I know what I'm getting myself into and I'm gonna fight. He takes off his shirt and he hands it to Violet. And I was like, whoa, okay. Okay, Dane. Here he is. There's Dane. But then he gets knocked out unconscious. Just immediately, and she's having to save him. To be fair, she has to save Xaden too, but it just falls short because he gets knocked out. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
I don't even remember this scene happening.
What?
Becca, how could you not remember this?
It was a major mission too.
Yes.
Where?
Whenever they fight the twins and Queen, one of the queens.
Yes. Oh, yes, with the twins. No. Yes.
Yeah, I know. Yes, I was jumping ahead, but that's the moment where I was like, wait a minute. Okay, Dane. Okay.
And then he's unconscious.
Yeah. Okay. Well, in his defense, like his signet or whatever, like he doesn't combat as much, like give him some credit. Okay. I have nothing else to defend here.
Nah, Dane, I'm at 80% with him. I'm still, like I said, I still got my eye on him just a tad, but he's getting there.
Right? Because don't you guys think it's weird too that they hinted towards Dane? Did y'all get this? Did y'all get that they hinted towards Dane and Sloan?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that's for sure happening.
I was like, that is weird.
No, it's literally Xaden and Violet happening all over again. Like a girl who blames somebody for her brother's death.
Yeah, okay.
And he's a wing leader and she's a first year. It's literally the exact same formula, just different people. I mean,
except
honestly.
Liam is actually dead.
Man, we are still a little raw about Liam.
Okay, I'm sorry. No, I get it. I get your point, Becca, and I agree. You know, I didn't think about it that way. I'm just like, how could she be so mad? How could she be so mad at Violet and just hold a grudge against her for so long? And then Dane comes in and what? Because he's hot, she forgives him.
She doesn't.
No, she hasn't forgiven him yet.
She's still pissed off. Like anytime he talks in her direction, she gets pissed off. But they have this like tension or whatever. And like that one point, like whenever she lunges across the table at the end and Dane like brings her back. And then whenever she's channeling, you know, the energy or transferring the power or whatever. And he's like, look at me. And then he's like, you?
Oh my God, Cassandra, I had the exact same reaction. I'm like, ugh.
Shut up, Dane.
Like, okay, Dane, like chill out.
I know, he's like, look into my eyes.
No, he does not. Oh my God. I'm gonna find it because
no, Becca, I know what you're talking about.
No, because I'm gonna read it out loud because you're obviously missing what it's supposed to sound like. Okay, I'm gonna read it to you the way it's supposed to be read.
She's struggling and he's saying, I'm there, I'm your anchor. He's saying, Sloan, I'm your gravity. Like I'm your anchor.
That's not what he says. So I'm gonna find it because you are putting words in Dane's mouth that don't belong there.
Sorry, I'm sorry. It's just so easy. I don't.
Oh, Becca, sorry, we're coming after your man.
I'm sorry. Because like I don't hate him. I don't hate Dane.
Okay, here we go. You ready?
Okay.
I'm gonna read it to you the way it's supposed to be read, Cassandra.
Everybody, calm down. No, I read it. Okay.
Are you listening?
Listening.
Intently.
Okay. He says, eyes here, Dane says, and Sloan looks his way. Pull from the excess you feel in me and push to the deficit in him. You're not a weapon of destruction. You're not venom. You're the artery power chooses to flow through. Your life. Like, your life. And you're over here saying that he's like, look into my eyes. That's not what he says. And then her brow knits and Dane flinches. I'm going to hurt you. Gods, don't I know it. Like, that's so freaking cute. Like, that's a double entendre, right? Like yes. Gods, I know you're going to freaking hurt me because I love you, right?
Yeah.
And then, but you're not going to kill me no matter how badly you want to. Now do it. Does that sound anything like the way that you just made him sound? I will defend Dane until like my last breath. Okay, this is a hill that I will die on.
I guess I just hear it differently, knowing what they're hinting at and knowing that they're like, you know, they're trying to slowly build that up. I guess I just read it, you know, kind of like I was annoyed, but yeah.
You are like shitting on the one thing that I loved about this book right now, which is why I'm so passionate.
That's the one thing you loved?
Because like the Dane and Sloan possibilities is like what makes me excited for the next book. And you are making me sad that you don't feel the same way.
I don't be sad. I think it's there. I just like, you know, and I think there's room for it, and I'll allow it.
Just like,
well, you still blame him for Liam's death, and you like love
I do.
Liam, so that's your whole grudge, honestly.
Well, yes, and that's why I find it hard for her to. And you know, I know she hasn't forgiven him yet, but that whole dynamic is hard for me to understand. I'll just say that.
Yeah,
and I'll leave it at that.
I'm excited to see like where his character goes. Like, I feel like he still has like such a character arc that he'll do on.
And I wanted to see more of him, to be honest.
Yeah,
I wished I saw more of Dane. Yeah.
I'm sure we will in the next book. I think it's probably purposeful that we didn't get too much, but it's like
they laid the groundwork for him to have a really good like next season, as they would say on a show, which is this pretty much is. Yeah. But he's gonna have a really good next book. And I think that they're gonna have to, because Xaden's not gonna be in the next book probably, except for maybe unless they finally give us dual POV. But you know, I
But that's why they're laying the groundwork for other romances, like Dane and Sloan and Imogen and Garrick.
Drake and Mira.
Oh, right? Yes. Yeah. And there was for Kat and Traeger, but rest in peace, Traeger.
That was sad, but at the same time, I was like, wait, who?
Yeah, seriously. And we met Traeger in the last book, too, I think. Yeah.
I didn't remember him from the last book, but he did make an impression on, during this book. But
yeah, it did make me like, I audibly gasped when I got to the point where he I was like,
he got the arrow, the gift of the arrow.
Yes, man, that was
sick.
That's another part that I feel like he probably laughed at whenever Dane got slapped. He had to say thank you. I was like, man, Dane just keeps getting the short end of this freaking stick. But I do think that the broken compass probably will be like what leads Violet to Xaden. Don't you think? But she said like it doesn't point north, so it's got to point to something important, so I would think it's going to help her locate Xaden whenever she goes looking for him, because damn well that's what the whole next book is going to be about.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. That's such a good point. I dismissed it, but I need to learn with Rebecca Yarros. I need to remember that nothing is fluff and like there's intention behind everything. So yeah, definitely. Okay, the other character that I loved his development is Arik. And just like everything that we saw with him, and I still stand in the last episode we talked about that I would marry Arik, and I would still 120%
not change. Yes.
Yeah, so I loved him, and I love to see the dynamic of like his brother, Halden. Yeah. But just how it was so obvious, like their differences. Like Halden is such like a little spoiled, entitled brat who throws tantrums, and it just shows like the maturity of Arik, even though he's like the younger brother.
Yes, I felt like he was honestly like a little Liam-esque. Is that weird to say? To me, I felt like he was like a little like gonna do good regardless of the cost. And I feel like Liam was very much that way. And I enjoyed that. I enjoyed reading about him. I was like, oh, he's really shaping up. He's really like coming into his own. So yeah. What did y'all think about? So we got kind of like a love triangle-ish for like 5 minutes with Halden and Xaden and Violet, because we saw the dynamic in Iron Flame with Xaden and Kat. The exes. I wish we had a little more. I wish we had more.
I wish she hadn't have made Halden so insufferable.
Yeah.
There was no redeemable qualities that you could be like, where Violet may kind of be a little tempted, or, besides him being handsome, that was all. I mean, it was like
we'll be the next king, like the nobility or whatever.
Like he's handsome, but he cheated on me, so he's an ass. And then everything from then on out proved that he was an ass. Like give us something where we're kind of like, ooh, what is she going to do?
I liked the part, and I wish it would have been explored more, but I liked the part where she started to say, no, this is my mission and this is how it's going to go. And he had a moment where he looked at her like he finally was seeing her. He hadn't seen her before. And Taryn's like, yeah, he doesn't know who you are. He never knew who you were, or whatever. And I wish they would have explored that a little more, where he was like taken aback, like, whoa, this girl is legit.
Yeah.
But he just, fell into his spoiled brat ways, wanting to steal stuff.
Yes.
Where did the love triangle? It just disappeared.
Yeah, there was no vulnerability from him except for him being flown around in a basket.
Oh my God. Hilarious. The basket. Like, the visual of a basket.
To like emasculate, like, wow. And like all the memes that have come out about like him, and it's like just a little like picnic basket or whatever. It's just top notch. Like,
oh my God. That is so funny. Yeah, I wish it would have lasted a little bit longer too. But I did love seeing jealous Xaden. It was so fun just to see that side of him. Yeah, and so referencing this whole love triangle, it was whenever they're visiting the bookstore to get her dad's books that she left for Violet, and she was being interrogated almost by the grandma. And she was like asking her all these questions, like wisdom questions or testing her knowledge at first. And then the last question was like, then what happened with the prince? Like, what happened with your ex? But then she says, he didn't love me, not in the way I deserve to be loved, and no amount of power is worth staying with someone who doesn't love you. And then the grandma or whoever it was, she was like, you know your value. I just love that, and also thinking she was with him when she was 18 years old. And I think that is so mature for an 18-year-old to have that viewpoint of, being hurt and like cheated on, but to like be able to walk away, especially when there's so much power. And status that could come with that relationship, but no. And she was like, there's no amount of power that it's not worth staying with someone that doesn't love you.
Yeah, that's great. Like how she feels about Xaden too, and that's what Xaden loves about her, is he's like, you love me for me, not for what my title can give you, which is just speaks to her as a character.
Yes.
Yeah. Can we talk about that moment that in the bookstore
where they thought that they were Dane? Or they
yes. And she was like, Dane ate us. And then Mira laughed, y'all. I had to reread that multiple times. It was so funny.
That was really funny.
She's like, I just need a second. I need a second. That was me. I was like, I died.
That's one of my favorite parts of the book, where I was like, man, there's some good comedic relief, because it was just, it hit so well. And of course, everything that Riddick does was hilarious. Him getting stabbed and it messing with his flight jacket, and then him and she thinks he's been stabbed, but it's just and he just starts hitting the crap out of the chef because he's like, you ripped my jacket, how dare you? I hate sewing. And it was just man, he was by far, I think, the highlight of this book for me. And he was, he was my Mary on the game at the last book, because I was like, could you imagine just laughing and having that in your life all the time? And I stand by that. I think he was just the highlight of the whole book. His relationship with his dragon, which his dragon being a younger dragon, and they play with each other and they're sassy together and stuff. I was like, man, that, I loved that element of it. That was so good.
Yeah, they pull pranks on each other, I think it was.
Yeah, the itching powder and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And the moment between Riddick and Violet where because she gets all worried that he gets stabbed and she thinks he's gonna die, and he's like, I love you too. Oh, it was so sweet.
Yeah.
They hug each other. Oh, yeah. And then, oh my gosh. And then he's like, you need to tell the crew. You need to tell the rest of the crew about Xaden. He finds out and he's like, we love you. You need to let us be there for you. You need to let us help you. We could have been helping you this whole time.
Yeah.
He's like, we love you. Just let us love you.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. We love you.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So he can be serious whenever he needs to be serious.
Yes. Well, we don't want to forget about our sweet Sawyer. What do we think about his character in general? Getting to see more of him, how do we feel?
He had a big battle to go through with himself. How is he going to navigate the world now, having, to have the
prosthetic?
The prosthetic, yeah. Violet, so far, she's been the one that's had to navigate, how do I be the strong person, the strong writer with my joints and my physical weaknesses, and Sawyer hasn't had that.
Yes. But I'm like, man, this poor guy, he didn't get chosen the first year, so he was a repeat first year. But I feel like that just goes to show how strong of a character he really is.
Because I think until this book, he's been kind of in the background a little bit. Riddick's obviously the very funny one, the comedic relief. Ree's the strong leader. Violet, obviously, she's got so much going on. And Sawyer's just kind of always been that supportive friend.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I will say one critique I have of their little squad is that they just all live for Violet. Everybody seems just kind of they're just her support. I don't know.
I see what you're saying. Yeah. I think we see it more that way just because it's through her eyes.
Yeah.
We mostly see her. I didn't get a lot of Rhea this book either. Rhiannon.
Her not being on the squad kind of, took her out. But I loved the way that Rhea was let me do my job, and Violet had to understand that she couldn't do everything. Theophany, or how are we pronouncing her name? Theophany. Yeah, whatever. Stephanie with a lisp.
Stephanie with a the.
Yeah.
Theophany.
But whenever she was like, you know, what's it going to be? Like, you're going to go save everybody or, you know, this or that. And she's like, I don't have to, she will. And it was you know, commanding the line and stuff. And so it was just like, there we go. Like, there's some recognition that her friends can stand on their own, you know. And I loved, like, I saw so many reviews about like Rhee's and Imogen's chapters like being unnecessary. I kind of perked up when I got to those because I was like, okay, like something different, you know, than Violet's inner voice. I loved it.
Honestly, I loved Imogen's chapter.
I ugly cried during Imogen's chapter, y'all. Quinn's death was rough. I think I just imagined, you know, like the flashback scene to when they first met and, you know, her just walking up and being like, we're going to be friends whether you like it or not. And I was like, well, that, you know, struck a chord with me because I feel like that's exactly how I've been with all of my best friends, you know. But that's just a testament to how well Rebecca Yarros writes. I didn't need a whole backstory. I could feel in that moment that friendship and that heartbreak from Imogen. And I was like, could you imagine like seeing one of your best friends slip away from you like in front of your eyes and not being able to help it? Like, just kill me right along with her because I will be useless after that. Man, Renee had to like come check on me because I was in my office like just bawling and he was like, are you okay? And I was like, you don't understand.
Aw, yeah, but I agree with you, Becca. It was so well written. Just even that one-liner of as Quinn was dying. Yeah, we made it a good one. And then it like flashbacks, that little tiny flashback of them like meeting as they're climbing to walk across the parapet.
She says, hi, I'm Quinn Hollis. I've decided we should be friends. That's what she said to me as we climbed the turret on conscription day. You do realize we're about to cross the walkway of death. Well, then it might be a short friendship, but we'll make it a good one.
And I think just those lines, those few lines can like tells you everything that you need to know about like their friendship and like the history that they have together. And just, like literally that's all you need to get like how deep their friendship went.
Because then there was the whole part where she was like, I'm scared. She's like, don't be scared. My family's there.
Literally that line, like I was holding it together. I was like, oh, this is sad that she's watching Quinn die. But as soon as she said, I am scared, like that's what did it for me. I was like, all right, I'm dead. That's when the tears started flowing for me.
But when like they're not ready and they're saying like, I'm scared, it's like that leaves something with the person that's having to watch it. And that's something that will like replay in Imogen's head for forever, you know? And so it's like, it's a different type of sad and loss when they're not ready.
I just love that she just like, she still had to be strong and she still had to like, to say like, it's okay. Like my family's going to take care of you. Like, just say hi. Just, they're there. They'll be there waiting for you.
And I think it was even in her inner dialogue is exactly the part that you're saying, Cassandra, of like, it's like, oh, Quinn is scared, but I need to hold it together or I need to be strong for her. And then that's when she starts to, you know, be supportive. And it's like, don't be scared. Like,
Yeah.
Guys, like if this is how we feel with Imogen and Quinn, Rebecca Yarros, I am not ready. Don't kill my faves.
Like I've already gone through Liam. Okay, so let's talk about the chemistry and the good scenes, the good chapters between Xaden and Violet.
I was like, oh, I can't wait to hear Cassandra and Becca's like opinion and thoughts around just the chemistry between Xaden and Violet. Just because, and to say it again, if we have any new listeners, a lot of people thought Violet was whiny in their relationship or frustrated with Violet. Or I personally thought that Xaden was very toxic in the first two books. And so I'm just really, really curious about y'all's thoughts on like their chemistry. So what did y'all think?
Oh, it was beautiful. I loved it. It was precious. It delivered 100%. So happy with his progression as a man. Oh, Xaden is my man right now. Oh my gosh. Spoiler alert, I would marry Xaden.
Right?
Okay. All right.
He was so sweet and there was no question. Angela, I think you said he came out within the first couple chapters saying, I love you to Violet. Chapter 2?
Chapter 2? 3? Somewhere around there. He said, I love you. I'm like, look at this
yes, you do.
man. And he's speaking it out loud, not just in his inner dialogue.
Finally.
Look at this man.
What a man.
What were your top like Xaden moments without getting too okay? Can I just say mine?
You're like, what are y'all? But I'm gonna go first.
Y'all, the most beautiful thing was him washing her hair and like taking care of her and bathing her. Oh my gosh, it was so sweet. And I was just so proud of him.
Yes.
So proud of him.
I'm such a words of affirmation person, and I think that speaks to whenever like characters say things that hit. And I think my favorite Xaden moments were when he would mention, and I know this was kind of foreshadowing to them getting married, but where he's like, girlfriend isn't a strong enough word. Or,
for what we are.
Yes, like that doesn't, like, I don't even want to say you're my girlfriend. That doesn't encompass like what you really are to me. If somebody said that to me, like,
and he said, we're past the breakup stage.
Yes, that was the other thing he said too.
Yes, like he was like the will they won't they was so like not even mentioned in here. It was just, and granted, this is my one critique of Xaden though, is that
stop critiquing Xaden.
I'm sorry, okay?
Your critiques of Xaden aren't welcome.
But listen, okay. He now is he's face to face with his morality. And I think that now he's like, I am slipping away. So now like I have to tell you that I love you. Like I have to be honest with this. Like I think that we've talked so much about like why couldn't he get there? It took him being like, my soul is slipping away. And like I have to tell you, and I have to like literally enjoy every moment that I have with you because I don't know when I'm gonna fall off the deep end.
So do you feel like because he had to get to that point, like it means less?
No, I think he's just finally being honest with how he feels. It doesn't take away from it. It just, I almost wish he would be that vocal without thinking that it's because it might be the last time.
Yeah, I think it kind of speaks to someone hitting their rock bottom.
Yeah.
And just like kind of like facing a life and death situation or almost dying. And it's like, oh, that realization of like, oh, I have to take advantage of every single moment.
Right.
So kind of speaks to that. Just like the way that he would express himself. Like there was even a quote that I want to read to you all. Yeah. It was like early on. It was probably, I don't know, within the first 5 chapters. It's just him describing what he felt to Violet as, it was hotter than rage and sharper than fear and cut deeper than helplessness, all because I couldn't get to you. If I'd been there beyond the wards, I would have drained the very earth to its core to keep you safe. The maturity of this man and the development of this man, and it was just beautifully done.
And then the whole my consort. Like, when are you going to be ready to have those conversations, Violet? Because I am. I was like, oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay. Now, granted, it may be because he knows that he's slipping. His soul is slipping.
The other thing that I loved about Xaden is how he gives so much respect to Violet in terms of her leadership. There's this one moment where she's like giving orders, and I think Garrick starts to question it, and he's like, you do not question command, or something like that. Like, you give Violet her space and her respect, and she is in charge, and you will obey.
Yeah. I feel like we saw so much of Violet's like ruthless side in this book, and her just wittiness, especially when they went to the Isles and having to work their way up to be able to speak to whoever's in charge.
Yeah. Her whole poisoning. And Xaden's mom, we haven't even talked about Xaden's mom. She had already poisoned them whenever they were trying to poison them with chocolate cake.
His favorite thing. How dare you? Yes. How dare you? Which, apparently the mom didn't have anything to do with it. But it's just so poetic. And thankfully, like, he didn't get poisoned. Poor Garrick his life was on the line. But, that was sick.
Yeah.
Sick.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about I feel like the most anticipated theory for this book was we were going to find out what is Violet's second signet. So we finally find out that she is a dream walker. Is that what we're calling it? We're naming it. What were y'all's thoughts? Was it everything you expected it to be?
I totally did not catch that. I thought it was something else. I thought it was compulsion. Like she tells people to do something and they're forced to do it. But no, so to Dreamwalker kind of came out of nowhere for me.
Now, obviously like in the other books, her dreams, that explains why she was having those dreams.
I think it's going to give such a good way for Xaden and Violet to connect while they're apart in the next book.
Oh.
I think it's a brilliant way for Rebecca Yarros to keep them connected when they're not physically together.
That's awesome. Like you can go into people's dreams and like and meddle. Like that was the one thing. It's like, oh, you can meddle. I'm like, okay, that's gonna come into play. Like what but like what can she do? Like what can you do with people's dreams? I don't know. I'm intrigued.
Yeah. I think that there's gonna be a lot of her honing in and figuring out what she can do with it. So that's gonna be cool. I'm excited.
Yeah. So we find out about a lot of people's signets. So Onyx, his signet, he's a precog.
Precognition.
Yes.
Or they call it a pregog. I was like, that's pretty cool. So we find out his signet, and all the marked ones have like a second signet, apparently.
They've all got 2 signets. It's crazy.
Garrick is a distance walker.
Which that's what I thought Violet's one was going to be, because they did have that line in Iron Flame where they were like, there hasn't been one of those in generations. But
Xaden said that, by the way, and that was a lie. Look at him.
Yeah, I know. I was like,
right?
Or maybe up for him?
Or maybe he didn't know at the time. Maybe
I think he knew.
Right?
Yeah,
he knew.
Yes, they all know about each other's second signets.
Yes, that's why I think that there's going to be something into play where all of these like important characters have these signets that haven't been around in generations. And now I thought that was a good twist, that now there's a new shadow wielder, because
oh my gosh,
nature's balancing it out. They've also mentioned like the 6 gods or whatever. And so I think there's going to be kind of like a dream team, right, of like these 6 signets that are going to have to save the world because they're all alive at the same time.
Yeah, because in the past it was like it took 6 of them to get rid of the venom, and it's coming, which plays into like one of my theories.
You want to move into theories?
Yes, let's talk about some theories.
I was just going to say, so what don't we know? What was left up to interpretation, maybe? Like, what are the questions that we have?
Definitely, who turned venom with Xaden. I think that's the top of everybody's list. He mentions in there that it was somebody who watched him suffer. So it's somebody that knew that he was venom. So it leaves Bodhi, Garrick, or Brennan, right?
Technically Riddick. Riddick knew.
Yeah. And he says in there, like you watched me suffer for months. So
it can't be Riddick.
It can't be Riddick, because Riddick didn't really see
watch him
or watch. Yeah. And I feel like Bodhi is the obvious one, right? Because the whole time he's been saying, like, I don't want to take over. Like, I'm going to be at your side no matter what. And then it also shows through Imogen's viewpoint, his dragon was injured. He was crouched over. He was throwing up. But I honestly, I think that it's Garrick. And I had, before we even got to Xaden's point that somebody had turned, I was thinking that Garrick was venom the whole time. And I immediately was like, oh, he's venom. During Imogen's chapter, when he goes down to get her and Quinn's body. Okay, this is from Imogen's point of view. I stare at the other side of the staircase, locked in the memory, watching as the stones begin to pale, then lose their color one by one, each lost higher than the last. My heart somehow continues to beat, marking what I used to think of as time, and color disappears from the stones in the bend beneath us so gradually that I can't help but wonder if Quinn simply took the color with her. Quinn, someone bellows from above and footsteps thunder. Where are you? And it's Garrick. And so she's thinking like, well, the venom all around are like sucking the energy, but it's like every time that somebody seems to see it, Garrick is right there. So the only thing that keeps me from thinking that my theory is totally wacko is that, like, she sees him and she mentions, my head turns slowly towards the voice and Garrick crouches on the step above us, his hazel gaze locking on mine and filling with so much misery, so much sympathy that it overflows my own eyes and wetness streams down the side of my cheek. So it's like, I feel like if he had just channeled, he'd be red. Right? Yeah. But I think that Bodhi is the more obvious answer, because this whole time Xaden's been like, you have to take my place, so you have to be safe. So what changed?
And he fights back so hard against that. He's like, no, I want to be on the front lines. I'm a writer. I don't want to rule.
Then I also saw, there was a theory where Brennan's like questioning her, like, where have you been? And it's almost like he's testing her to see if she remembers, but maybe he was actually with her like during this whole thing, and maybe it is Brennan, but he's kind of like playing dumb to try to like make sure and that she really doesn't know or have any memory.
Interesting.
I don't know.
We shall see.
We shall see.
We'll find out in 2 years.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That's what I'm like. I mean, she hasn't even written a book. She might not even know yet.
Yeah. It's okay, Rebecca. Take your time.
Yes, take your time. Yeah.
I thought it could be Bodhi. It's leaning towards Bodhi just because of the whole marriage to Violet. You know, Xaden knows that Bodhi's probably not going to come out of this whole venom type conundrum that he has to give it to Violet. But it could just be that, like, Bodhi was like, no, I'm going with you guys. I see that Garrick's venom and I'm going with you. If you're going to leave somebody behind, it's not going to be me.
Yeah.
And so he's like, well, I'll just marry Violet.
Yeah.
No, Violet was obviously conscious during the whole thing. I'm sure Violet was like, you know, just marry me. Just marry me. Just marry me. Because there's a lot that plays into it. There's writers missing. There's eggs stolen.
Yeah.
And there's something there because it just so happens to be 6.
Yeah. Is that how many the Irids requested? No, wait. Who requested?
It was the people of Umbriel that requested the dragon eggs. Mm-hmm. And I believe she actually requested 12.
They said 2 per breed. So that makes sense.
Yeah. So they requested 12, but there's 6 missing.
Yeah.
My only thing is, like, I don't know what they're doing, but I have a thought that they're trying to get another, like, ward up somewhere else.
Yeah.
I think it was Violet's idea to take the eggs because she knows that they need that many dragons, 6 of the different kinds. And that's why she was like, marry me. I will take care of Tyrandora while you're gone, doing this, like, setting up this new world for us. And I'll talk to Andarna and we'll get an Irid to fire up your last one so we can get a ward out there somehow.
Yeah.
That was my thought.
But what did y'all think about his note to her whenever
what was the note?
It says, don't look for me, it's yours now. So my thought is that they put like that last fragment of his soul is in that ring.
Whoa.
Oh my god.
Because like they talk about how like it like splinters the soul, right? And like whenever she said like, no, wait, I love you. And he's like trying desperately to grasp onto that one part of his soul. I think that he's saying like, don't look for me. It's yours now. Like my soul, like that little part of my soul that's left is yours. I feel like he had that, I don't know, worked up. Like he knew that if things go to SHIT, that like he's gonna make sure she has like that part of him or whatever.
Interesting.
So like, do you think there's a way that from that little fragment piece that he could come back somehow?
Yeah, that's what I think. Like when she gets the compass and she finds him and she finds a cure for the venom, then like having that last piece of like his soul is gonna be what saves him.
I like it.
I will say, and y'all will probably agree, but I like how just the last page, the last few words of, you know, it's yours now. Don't look for me. It's yours now. And then Violet looked at Imogen. She immediately knew. And obviously, I don't know if y'all, when she woke up and she didn't know what happened, I was like, Imogen, she did it. She did it. But the fact that she was there and she's like, I did what you told me to do. I was like, okay, so Violet she planned a lot of what's going on.
Yes.
And purposely doesn't want to know where he is so that they can't
or
find
what
him.
he is too, right?
And then there was the whole thing with like Panchek being venom. Did y'all get that?
I don't know if he was venom or if he just was like a spy for the
working with them.
Yeah,
that's what I got, that he was a spy.
At one tab says, turns out Panchek doesn't actually care where anyone sleeps. Quinn spends every night with her girlfriend too, since Jax happens to be stationed here. And I tabbed that because I was like, who's Panchek? Panchek hasn't been mentioned this entire book. Like, who is this person?
Yeah.
I had to look it up and then come to find out that both Panchek and Quinn end up being big players at the end of the book. So I was like, she just like sprinkled a little like name drop. So I got to that point and I was like, I think I just looked that person up. I was like, who was that again? Like,
and who is it? Who is he? Is he a professor or
he's like a general sort of somebody?
Yeah, like he wanted. I think he was like Lilith or whatever's like second in command, because they mentioned that several times. Like somebody is giving intel. And that's where I was like, oh my gosh, if it's Garrick, like that's kind of what I was thinking, because he was giving me, there were a few things
I
that
thought
were
it
giving
was
me weird
Dane
vibes.
still.
You guys are such Dane haters.
It's like Dane, that's is Dane.
Oh my god.
Ados, Dane, his dad. Well, I think he's one of many. I do think Atos, Dane's dad, is also, doing some shady stuff. I still think so. And I think she purposely, didn't talk too much about him, because I suspected him a lot in the first 2 books. And I think she purposely didn't talk about him.
Yeah.
And that's why she's like, okay, well, I'll give you pan check. So that way you have an idea of everybody is kind of in on it. I have a big theory.
Share.
I don't want to hype it up, but okay. So, Violet's dad. What do we think about Violet's dad?
I like his name.
Okay.
I do. It's a cool name. Asher. All right.
Okay.
Mr. Thorngale.
But did you see how Asher Sorengale was Asher Sorengale, and then there was an Asher Daxton? Did y'all see that? No. Okay, so here's the thing. There was an Asher Sorengale at the beginning of, the chapters.
Mm-hmm.
It would talk about Asher Sorengale, and then it would also talk about Asher Daxton. Asher Daxton had a lot of the comments about Dune specifically. It says, there are times I look at Parapet at the very act of threshing and marvel that dragons have not been to Unreal. What we call treacherous is their idea of primary school. Unreal, Isle of Dune by 2nd Lieutenant Asher Daxton. What a coincidence that Asher Daxton has the exact same first name as Asher Sorengale. But when they refer to him, talking about Dune, they talk about him as Asher Daxton. And then when he's married to Violet's mom, he's now Sorengale. My theory is that Asher started as Asher Daxton in Unreal. Went through all his ways, learned all this stuff about the goddess of war and all that, and Unreal was isolated, and there was that big thing long ago where they were promised dragons, and then they didn't get the dragons. They didn't get the power. And so my theory is that he has been orchestrating this and guiding Violet to help the people of Unreal bring magic and dragons to Unreal. And I back it up just with the queen requesting, I want 12 dragons, 2 of each kind. They still want dragons. They still want power. Of course, they're like, no, not going to happen. But I think there's something more to it. And I think he's still alive. And I think he's actually somehow evil. And he's been guiding her to do that. And that's why when they tried to save her life and they tried to dedicate her, they were like, nah, because they saw that her future could go one of 2 ways, one of good and one of evil. And so that was my theory.
That's a good theory.
Does it make sense though?
Yes, because does
it make sense?
And it's complex enough to be something Rebecca Yarros would do.
And here's the other thing too. The Irids, they see her. I don't think they saw Xaden and they were like, well, Xaden, no. They saw her bond with Violet and they were like, well, that's where you went wrong. That's your first misstep. And it's because Violet right now is at the point where she thinks that her dad is leading her to do something good. But I think it could be
leading her to do something bad.
Because she's so smart. She knows all the secrets, all of the history.
I like it. I do think that there's no coincidence that they have the same
Asher.
First name.
Yeah.
Rebecca Yarros wouldn't do that.
No.
Why would, especially with all these names and all these millions new names.
If it's not the same Asher, then who is Asher Daxton and why would they say Asher Daxton? Who is that?
Yes.
So.
No, I think you're onto something.
This is the first book that we learn of his name too.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't know his name before. But you think he's alive though?
I kind of do, because I feel like he has maybe his whole thing is that he is loyal to Unreal and to the people of that side that don't have the magic. And maybe he kind of went down the wrong path and went towards the Venom because that's all they had. But he just wants to make it to where, no, it's equal for all. And it's fair for all, where the magic is spread to all. And why is it only there? And that was the big question, is like, you know, when they crossed and then they didn't have magic, my big question was why? And I don't think it really said. Obviously, there were no dragons, but why were there no dragons?
Yeah.
Because Navarre is keeping them all to themselves. They want all the magic. They want all the power.
I think that some places choose not to because they don't want the destruction that come with it.
Right. Well, some places do, but that place in particular they were like, you guys said you were going to give us dragons and you didn't.
Right.
Yes. So some territories wanted dragons. Yes. So I think he's alive, sure. And I think he's Venom, and I think he might be the main bad Mr. Big Bad.
Mr. Big Can you imagine?
I think that's where we're going.
Yeah, the betrayal,
because that would be the biggest betrayal. Like Violet, her whole life,
and like this whole time has been like working towards trying to find a cure, thinking that her dad was onto something with like the feather tail research and this and that. It kind of sends her on this goose chase. Like he's having her almost do like the dirty work of like the evil side.
Yeah. And then like the whole like the Irids like leaving and going off to be peaceful and be away from it all. They know there's this like war for magic.
Yes.
And they don't want to be part of it and they don't want to help. They were going to try to give him a chance with Andarna.
Yes. And
then
they
obviously...
Oh, that was so sad when she like gave her whole life story. They had like circle time. They were all like sitting down and like whatever. She was excited. So excited. And then for them just to be like,
you screwed up.
No.
You're an abomination or something. You're a horror.
Like, yes.
Excuse me.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's why but they don't want anything to do with the Venom. I mean, that's why, you know, they saw Xaden and they dipped.
Except that one guy, Leothan.
Leothan.
Yes. That is in the same den as Andarna. He's a real one.
I will say, like, when Andarna left, that was heartbreaking. That was something that I definitely got, like, some really tough emotions to work through. But, all right. Anything else?
Does this wrap us up?
No, that was my theory. That was my big
I like
theory.
it. That was a good theory.
Yeah, I like it.
Well, thank you guys so much for following along, listening with us this week. We are so excited to wrap up Onyx Storm. We're excited to kind of wrap up this series for a while until the next book in probably a couple years from now. So thank you for anybody who's been on this journey with us. We will be back next week, of course, with more mom chitty chatty booky content. So thank you guys so much for listening, and we hope you guys have a great week.
Thank you.
Bye. And that's a wrap for today's episode of The Book Carriers.
We hope you enjoyed diving into this week's read with us as much as we did.
Thank you so much for joining us on this literary adventure. Your support means the world to us.
If you loved today's episode, don't forget to follow us on social media for updates, behind-the-scene fun, and more bookish content.
And if you're feeling generous, please rate our podcast 5 stars. Your reviews help other book carriers find us and join our growing community.
Remember, we'll be back with a new episode every week, catching up on our latest read.
Until next time, keep reading and living those amazing stories.
Bye for now.
Happy reading.
I've been